Studying climate change and its importance on the environment, impact on the environment is one major area many scientists are working on. Monitoring the ice loss, changes in the wildlife behavior, permafrost thaw, shifts in ocean circulation patterns. So these are some of the areas where many scientists are working. And how and what the scientists do? They collect the data and monitor the changes over time, develop climate models, predict future scenarios, and propose strategies for mitigating environmental damage. So these are all the activities the scientists carry out. And how to advance our understanding of the Arctic? Basically, we have to have a collaborative effort between various countries, and we have to involve international partnerships. Indigenous knowledge and advanced technology should be shared between all the nations. And what are all the research funding that is available? Every major country in the Arctic nation has actually some funding for this Arctic research. NSF Office of Polar Programs, Arctic Science Foundation in the USA, EU Arctic funding and programs in the European Union, Arctic and Northern Challenge program in Canada, Norforsk funded Arctic research in Nordic Council of Ministers, Polar Science and Cryosphere Research, that is PACER from India, International Arctic Science Committee IASC in Iceland. So these are all the major funding agencies which support Arctic research. And what are all the international collaborative agencies? Arctic Council, that is the intergovernmental forum promoting cooperation in the Arctic. The University of Arctic, U-Arctic, which has hundreds of members which exchange various programs, scholars and research collaboration. International Arctic Science Committee and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. These are the various international collaborative units that exist for the Arctic research. So in which areas these people actually fund? One is the infrastructure investment. The research stations are established in the Arctic area. Field camps, observatories and specialized equipment for studying Arctic conditions and ecosystems are deployed in these areas. The data are collected using satellite observations, field measurement or long-term monitoring programs, and these knowledge along with the indigenous knowledge from the local communities are combined together or integrated to get what is actually happening at the ground level. So using the indigenous knowledge integration, we can recognize and value the insights that indigenous communities offer regarding the environmental change and most importantly the adaptation strategies, because they have been living there for hundreds and thousands of years. So they have easily adapted themselves to the cold climate. So we can learn a lot from the indigenous communities. And Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a major organization. They received the Nobel Prize in 2007 for their work towards dissemination of knowledge regarding the climate change. The next one is the permafrost. So the frozen ground that remains below 0 degrees centigrade for 2 or more consecutive years is called the permafrost. So this area basically stores vast amounts of carbon and greenhouse gases. The rising temperature causes the permafrost to thaw. This is what we had seen in the Arctic amplification, releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which leads to even further increase of temperatures. The permafrost thaw threatens the infrastructure, ecosystems and the traditional livelihood and indigenous communities. We will be studying about this in the later part of the series. So this map actually shows the permafrost regions that is present in the Arctic. So the darker shades of purple indicate larger percentage of permanently frozen ground. So if you look at the Russian Federation till the Siberian area, the entire Russia is having lots of permafrost. Similarly, the northern part of Canada is also having a large amount of permafrost, which is very strong. And there are lighter purple areas which shows that isolated or sporadic regions are with areas with a low percentage of frozen ground, which is in the little bit southern area of Canada and the Alaska area. And Labrador also, if you can see, there are certain part where permafrost is there, very small amount. Then let us look at the unique ecosystems that exist in the Arctic region. Tundra and the boreal forest and the icy coastline are very unique to Arctic area. The biodiversity include mammals, that is polar bears, Arctic foxes and musk oxen, which are present. Similarly, bird species, marine mammals and fish. So altogether around 21,000 species live in the Arctic. They say it a home. The habitat distribution is basically the tundra and the boreal forest, freshwater lakes, rivers and coastal marine environment all exist in the Arctic region. There are various species that are abundantly present in the Arctic region. Some of the Arctic species are abundant and widely distributed. Others are very restricted to very small or a local area. For example, polar bear is present throughout the area, whereas Arctic fox is present in very sparse areas. And similarly, musk oxen is present only in a very restricted area. Endemism is also another thing which exists here. So there are many things which exist only in the Arctic, like Arctic tern or certain freshwater fish species. Ecosystem services, what the Arctic does is basically they help in carbon sequestration, freshwater regulation and the cultural values for indigenous communities. And as we know, the climate change actually impacts these regions. So the change in habitat availability, species distribution and ecosystem dynamics are completely disturbed because of the change in the climate. This also shifts the vegetation pattern that exists in the Arctic region. And here we see the marine mammal species which are present throughout the Arctic region, and some of them are very specific to either Atlantic Arctic or we can say Arctic archipelago or Barefoot Sea or Kara-Laptev Sea or Arctic Basin. So these are all the different areas, and some of the species live in all these areas, but a few of them does not live in all the areas. And let us look at the traditional knowledge from the Inuit, Sami and Chukchi. So they know about the navigating and surviving in the harsh environment. They have generational wisdom, that means transferred from generation to generation. They have a deep understanding of the land, sea, weather patterns, wildlife behavior and cultural practices. And all these things have a very important cultural significance. That means the indigenous cultures in the Arctic shape their identity, spirituality and social cohesion. These are intertwined with the languages, art, storytelling and customary practices, reinforcing cultural resilience and community bond that exists between various communities that live in the Arctic region. They have a very good ecological insights like seasonal calendars, wildlife migration pattern, habitat preferences, essential for hunting, fishing, herding and gathering services. These local people know very much about many of these things, and when we study about the Arctic expedition, many of the explorers had actually took help from the indigenous people while traversing through the Arctic region to reach the North Pole. So we will be studying about those events in the later part. They have a very good adaptation strategies, like they have flexible and responsive approaches to resource management, land use and decision making based on observation and experience. They follow very clearly what is the climate change that is happening in their area. Based on the shift in ice conditions, wildlife behavior and the weather pattern, they can easily predict how the changes are happening. They also integrate these things with the Western science. So the collaborative research initiative and the co-management framework integrate all their traditional knowledge and wisdom with the scientific decision making and policy and decision making. Here are some of the examples that we can learn from the traditional people. The bowhead whale can detect human by smell. That these people actually know. So when they want to go for hunting the bowhead whale, they do not want to stay in the wind direction which is going towards the whale, but they want to be on the opposite side so that the whale does not know these people are there to hunt. And emptying oneself of thought is key to know things or gain knowledge or wisdom. So that means you have to be empty to know something. So that is the traditional knowledge they actually have. And the field of awareness is important for hunting. So this they have actually experienced, and if they go for hunting, they actually remain calm and quiet before the hunt. So these are some of the important traditional knowledge we can learn from these people. Patience, being present in the moment, respect for others are some of the qualities of good hunter. So this is what they have been telling to generation after generation. Not only for hunters, even for any person who want to be successful, these kind of qualities are very, very essential. Cooperation is greater value than competition. We can actually learn these kind of things from the indigenous people. In the traditional knowledge of transfer, there is no competency test or be asked any question. So this is the major difference between learning through a traditional system which we generally follow and the knowledge they gain from their experiences. And the last one is the tourism. So here the opportunities to experience the region's pristine wilderness, unique wildlife and indigenous culture attract lots of tourists from around the world. They can visit iconic destinations like Greenland's icebergs, Norway's fjords and Canada's Northern Light, and Greenland and Svalbard's night lights, that is Aurora Borealis, can be seen, and midnight sun are some of the important things people can visit during their tourism. There are also people who are adventure seekers. The expedition to explore remote landscapes, encounter polar bears or witness the midnight sun are some of the things for the adventure seekers. And activities include dog sledging, snowmobiling and glacier hiking if you are a little bit more adventurous. Of course, this leads to some of the concerns about the environment. The first one is the positive contribution is local economies through spending on transportation, accommodation, tours and souvenirs increases the economic activity in the region, but that also leads to habitat disturbance, waste generation and cultural commodification. So this is the negative aspect of tourism. There is also cultural tourism where people learn about the traditional lifestyles, arts, crafts and storytelling of the local communities. This includes guided tour, cultural festival and homestays. Thank you.